Today on One Day Leader, the candidates celebrate their heritage by challenging stereotype and tribalistic views that continue to hinder Mzansi from progressing as a country. Mako tikiri nako wajiga jiga. Awatong sanbonani molweni dumelang tobela. Good evening and welcome to One Day Leader right here on SABC 1. My name is Tumelo Mothotoane and we're coming to you live from our Auckland Park studios in Johannesburg. Well, of course, it's Heritage Month, Happy Heritage Month, and in celebration of our culture, our heritage, we on One Day Leader are looking at the topic of tribalism and stereotypes in South Africa. From the simple case of children joking about the look of another friend who comes from a different culture to the many tribal wars that have taken place around the world because they are different. How do we teach Mzansi to have respect and tolerance towards each other? And the question, of course, to you, Mzansi, tonight is, what are some of the stereotypes that you've heard about from your tribe or even other cultures? And how do you deal with some of those tribalistic comments that you've heard from your friends? Well, we'd love to hear your comments on our social media. Of course, you can go to our Facebook page, which is One Day Leader SA, and on Twitter we are at One Day Leader SA, and do hashtag One Day Leader. Now, last week we say a farewell to Matasha, Mazomba, leader number 3, who left us. So this week we'll start our vision statement with leader number 4, Jabulani Sibiya.
Sawubona South Africa. Igama lami uJabulani, sibongo sami uSibiya. Ubaba wami uJabulani weSotobe, umama wami uThembeka waGakeni emkomo ezimbovu. Sibe ngenkomo abafokozana babeya ngehlahla wendaba emkhulu Gomede uSotobe ngampamalanga. Mina uJabulani Sibiya, and through leadership I salute you.
Thank you so much, Jabu. Alrighty, okay. We're moving on now to leader number 5, and her name is Samantha Beynon.
Dingumamfene, uhlati, uliza, ujambas, usanzana. Now this may be difficult for some of you to understand, but I am a unique South African and I am proud of who I am. I have been openly embraced by those outside of the color of my skin, and they have molded me into who I am today. And that is what I want as leader 5 for each and every single one of you South Africans, for you to be granted the opportunity to realize and maximize your potential for a brighter future. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Samantha. All right, now we're going over to leader number 6, and his name is Octavia. Shabangu.
Culture is not black, culture is not white. My vision for South Africa is a country that is burning with cultural pride and daring to live out the values of their heritage. I am the son of the soil, and my forefathers are not forgotten, but they live in me and my culture. I dare to live the ideas that will define this generation. And today I dare to prince in memory of that legacy of my culture. And in servitude of my people, my legacy is education.
Thank you so much, Octavia. And those are our top 3 for One Day Leader Season 3. Speaking of the top 3, let's have a look at our scoreboard for this week. Now, taking a look at our viewers' votes. First, you, of course, determine these points because you have voted. Samantha Beynon is on the number 3 spot with 1 point. And we have Jabulani Sibiya with 2 points. And leader number 6, Octavia Shabangu, is heading the viewers' votes with 3 points. Now we're moving on to the series scoreboard and let's take a look at how we look overall. Jabulani is heading with 12 points. Octavia coming behind with 10 points. And Samantha Beynon behind with 9 points. Well, Mzansi, I'd like to encourage you to please vote for your favorite leader on the One Day Leader SMS line, which is 34020. And in case you forgot, 9 episodes on, let me remind you, here's how you can vote. I will remind you one more time, if you would like to vote for your leader, just SMS. Of course, leader and the number, either 4 for Jabulani, leader 5 for Samantha, or leader 6 for Octavia, to the number 34020. Now, we are, of course, going to... all right, we'll just take a look again at the voting system and just remind you one more time that if you would like to vote for your leader, if you don't want to do it via SMS line, which I encourage you can also go to our social media, which is Facebook. It's One Day Leader SA, and Twitter is at One Day Leader SA, and do hashtag One Day Leader. So one more time, we'll remind you on how to vote. Take a look. To vote for your favorite leader, SMS Leader 4 Jabulani Sibiya, Leader 5 Samantha Beynon, and Leader 6, Octavia Shabangu. And now, ladies and gentlemen, let's meet, of course, the judges that have the oh-so-difficult job of deliberating on these contestants. Let's meet our resident judges. A writer, a public speaker and social activist, Shaka Sisulu is a founding member of Cheese Kids, a board member of Love Life, and serves on the interim leadership task team of the ANC Youth League. Constantinides is the Youth Network Generation Earth co-founder, executive director of Miss Earth SA, and lead SA executive. Indeed, we do welcome our judges. And our guest judge for this week is Mr. Tendo Ramahoma, the General Manager of the National Heritage Council. Originally, he's from the Limpopo province, my hometown, and he holds a B.Luris degree from the University of Venda and LLB and LLM degrees from the University of KwaZulu-Natal. He is an admitted attorney of the High Court of South Africa. And before working for NHC, he worked for the Road Traffic Management Corporation as their company secretary. He was appointed as a member of the South African Geographical Names Council from April 2011 to March 2014 by former Arts and Culture Minister, Honorable Mr. Paul Mashatile. Mr. Tendo, welcome to a One Day Leader. Round of applause, please, to our guest judge. The question that we want to ask is that what is the function of the NHC and how do you address issues of culture and heritage?
Thank you very much for having us as the NHC, a public entity under the Department of Arts and Culture. We have a primary mandate to protect, preserve, and promote South African heritage for the present and the future generations, supported by these young people behind us. We also mainstream the transformation of the heritage transformation charter, if you like. And for this year, we are on course towards promoting the theme that the minister announced, telling a story that takes South Africa forward as we celebrate 20 years of democracy. And we do that through our visits to heritage sites. We tell our stories the way we want, and for the younger generations to learn about the heroism of our iconic figures.
Absolutely.
Who brought us the freedom that we have today.
Oh, yes, indeed.
Yeah.
And Catherine, welcome back to the episode. What role do you think young people can play actively towards promoting culture within our country?
I think as we develop as a young democracy, it is so important that each and every one of us actually remembers our history and our culture. Because if we don't do that, we go against the ideology that we're a rainbow nation. It's our diversity that makes us stronger, but we need to hold on to that identity and that diversity in order to make sure that we preserve the cultures that we have in our rich country.
Absolutely, Catherine. And Shaka, speaking of identity, when people from outside South Africa think of South Africa, they think we're all Zulu-speaking people. Y'all Zulu people need to give us Pedi people a chance. So how do we have a united identity for the rest of the world to see, yet preserving our own cultural diversity?
Well, I don't know if people all over the world only think of us as a Zulu nation. I think they also think of us as a Mandela nation. Now, when you go around the world, they say, "Oh, South Africa, oh, Mandela," So there's been a change. I think what it is that as you have excellence coming to the fore, the rest of the world identifies that and identifies you with that excellence. So initially, we had Ushaga, the great Shaka Zulu, the father of the Zulu nation in essence, and now we have Utata Matiba, and it'll be the next generation of young leaders like this and innovators that are going to create the different idea of what South Africa means to the rest of the world.
Thank you so much, Shaka. Thank you so much, judges. Very happy to have you. Now, this week, our contestants dealt with issues of culture, identity, and tribalism. They went to find out what causes this and how it can be curbed. Let's see what they found out.
Guys, we have some task mail. Yay. Good morning, leaders. You are tasked to investigate the causes and consequences of different cultural stereotypes South Africans harbor. Upon arriving at these causes and consequences, you must stage a play aimed at encouraging unity in diversity and educating South Africans about the effects of categorizing the other. Your task leader is myself. I know we should perhaps try to see a blogger, but do you guys have any ideas?
I was thinking maybe if we could see a professor
Okay.
that knows anything about heritage and so forth.
Okay.
We can try vets maybe.
Okay, cool. To get the academic perspective, eh?
Yeah.
Awesome.
I'm thinking a sangoma.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, I think we will see a sangoma. Yeah,
Okay.
that'll be cool because that's very
Wow.
cultural to get that kind of cultural perspective.
Team, away. Cool, let's do this. Thank
Let's
you.
go.
The leaders were really excited about where this journey is taking them.
So now where are we? I'm really excited for this task. I think it's something that is relevant to people of all walks of life, because in one way or another, we are stereotyped and we also are responsible for stereotyping or placing stereotypes on other people.
Sesifile la Red Pepper Studios. We're here to meet Ntsoaki. Ntsoaki on a blog on tribalism, and we want to get more information on tribalism and what he has on his blog, as well as how we can actually combat the stereotypes in society.
We want to ask you some questions centered around tribalism and also your blog, because we are of the understanding by your blog.
I started it because of out of frustration. I wanted to write, but there was no platform that was willing to just open their doors for a new writer. One of the other things that I use the website for is to collect Tsonga people and actually teach them on the differences and teach other groups, because I saw that online people were always making fun of my people, the Tsonga people / Shangan. So I was like, I don't think people really understand who we are, and even Tsonga people themselves don't really understand who they are.
Where do you believe the misconceptions or the stereotypes surrounding specifically Tsonga people, because that's what you highlighted, come from?
We'll have to understand that they suffer on two levels. It's black people in their different groups, and then Amashangan, everyone else, as long as you come from, you're not South African. Tsonga people have been made to, like how Zulus put it, Islwanyan. We have been reduced to that. So everyone is like, in a way, trying to escape from Tsonga. So the South Africans can be able, if they have maybe Nguni links or Sotho links, they always sell out. Being Tsonga is very tough. So they're trying to, in a way, reject that.
Are you proudly Tsonga? Wabula ngwana mane or? Yeah,
I'm very proud. I think I'm an extremist to a certain extent.
So how are you
that
using this
is
platform to actually spread the pride instead of highlight the differences?
That's what I'm doing. Not being apologetic. If you're going to be apologetic about who you are and always wanting to think, will I come across as tribalist if I say this or do this, then that will limit you. We are in a dark place. The people need to understand this is not the government's country. This is our country. Any problem we have to fix. It's like in a family unit. You don't wait for your father to fix everything. You get up as a family and you make a plan. And that's what we need to do. And even as you guys, as leaders, you need to encourage people and inspire them to fix their own problems instead of relying on the government way too much. The government has a lot of things to deal with. And issues of identity and tribalism, those are issues on the ground level.
The candidates decided that they needed public opinion, so now they head to the Randburg taxi rank to find out views from ordinary people.
Sesifile la Rambek taxi rank, we need to look for what people's stereotypes are about each other in our African culture. We need to find out the different information that they have, and maybe ask where they got these stereotypes from.
What do you think about Xhosas?
Women-wise, we'd say they like gold diggers.
And Amadoda, the guys?
Gay.
Okay, that's fine.
Zulu men.
Zulu men are arrogant. They like cultural, basically, yeah.
Ba respect amavenda. Bana le care like.
Ucabanga noma Xhosa kahle kahle.
Mina la ungayikhuluma kwahamba neketela lami ukuqala nje engivakashele.
We've heard all kinds of stereotypes today. We've learnt about where these are coming from. We've learnt about how they can be solved, but that they won't be solved overnight. It's something that's going to take time, unfortunately.
Okay, I will pretend I did not hear some of the information from that insert, but great work from our top three. Now, after the break, we look at how the assignment was implemented. Well, don't you go anyway. Audience, I don't mean to pick on you, but I don't know if you're agreeing with the insert or you're saying no to all the things that were said in the previous insert. Which are you clapping to? No. Oh, yes. I just had to find out. Well, welcome back to One Day Leader. And as you can see, we are celebrating our heritage live here at our Henley Studios in Auckland Park, Johannesburg. Well, this week we're looking at tribalism and stereotypes and how this impacts on us as South Africans. The contestants discuss the views of some ordinary people on the streets, as well as some individuals who are experts on this topic. And then they were tasked to organize a cultural event. The question is, did they succeed? Let's have a look. The candidates then went to Orlando East in Soweto, where they met with traditionalist and researcher Mr. Zweli Hlongwane.
So, Baba, we want to know what you do for a living.
Mina ngumuntu nje promoter amasiko. Umuntu nje that happened to be fortunate ukuthi ngizithole ngizazi ukuthi ngubani. Then ukuthi in that process ngase ngenza a lot of research about finding out ukuthi ngubani mina.
Sure.
Then my journey started there.
What researches did you have to do in order to find out ubani wena as Uzwe?
I read a lot of books. Besides knowing and going back home, find my family, banginikeze usiko lasekhaya. I then did research all over Africa in terms of our culture, our heritage, our spirituality. Tribalism, I think, kunobu positive, nobu negative. If you use tribalism to harm other people, then it's terrible. But tribalism, there's nothing wrong with you being proud of, of the tribe that you come from. But if I were to mobilize my tribe to go and attack, other tribes, then there's a problem there.
Amasiko, how far do they go in perpetuating to harm others?
Usiko can never harm. Usiko can never harm because Usiko is actually, meant to then harmonize, what is above and what is below, so that there's harmony. Once kunalo harmony, then kuba ne resonance. Izulu liyavuma ukuthi certain things that should happen. I think into that is very harmful. It is the perpetuation of a superiority complex by media. Because media within the system esiphila kuyo promotes a certain culture, like Western culture. Western culture pays the bill. So mina mengiza ngumAfrika ngizama ukuexplainela ngokubuyisela emuva. And you look at my situation ukuthi there's an association nenhlupheko lapho. Why? Because usiko labantu abamnyama at the moment lu associate nenhlupheko. So a lot of people bangena ke manje uthola ukuthi bangene shiqa. You know, ku-Western culture, bangasafuni ukuzwa lutho ngusiko lwabo. So, yiso ke stereotype that we're trying to, you know, deal with. But it's a process. It's not something that will just happen like that. I think it will take to overhaul the whole system. But it has to be done so that each generation ezayo ingafiki ithole, you know, the confusion ekhona.
I do believe that when you do reach a certain class, you do look down on another class just based on where you are. And that's something that we should stop perpetuating, and it needs to start with us as a people.
Then the candidates went to find participants who express the unity of arts and culture.
Hopefully, what will be taken from this is, one, celebrate who you are, where you come from, your heritage, and at the same time respect the differences that we have in terms of ethnicity, culture, preference, choice, because we live in a democracy.
The dancers prove that no matter how old you are, you can celebrate your heritage. And then they joined in the fun.
Research had to be come with the most of the people, stereotype amatsong. So it was important for us to bring them together in a celebratory mood, to show that our differences are actually something unique. So, and why did we bring young people? Because we wanted to involve young people.
Father, hallowed be your name, your kingdom come. Give us today our daily bread and forgive us our sins. Gee ons vandag ons daaglikse brood en vergewe ons van ons sondes. My mother always reminded me, Ndranami, never look down on the rest. Wie is ek? En waar pas ek in? Do I fit in here because my father is Pedi and my mother's Ndebele? Do not judge me because I'm not fluent in my vernac. Please do not judge me when I'm late and say, it must be the stereotype. It's okay. But please judge me when I'm late and say, sir, you are unprofessional. You do not value or respect our time. I don't need to fit in because our struggle is not the same. Why do we call it a struggle? Because where you're from should not be held against you. You should be proud of where you're from. So I'm proud to say, Papa ka ke Mopedi o tswang Denelton, umama ngumndrebele uphume kwaNdrebele eMloto. I thank the Van der Bijls every day for the man I am today. Dankie Leon and Anne Marie. Bawo ndingumntwana wakho.
Very interesting thoughts there on culture. Well, congratulations to our candidates. And I hope, of course, the judges enjoyed this as much as I did. But of course, we find out after the break, and then we go straight into our debate for this week. Stay tuned. watching One Day Leader. My name is Tumelo Mothotoane, and today we're discussing some of the stereotypes and tribal views on our culture in Mzansi and the general views on tribalism. But right now I'm going to hand over to the judges to ask their questions to our contestants, especially with regards to the task. Judges, this one's for you, Catherine.
Thank you. My question is for Jabu. In the discussion of tribalism and how we teach values and respect within our communities, how would you respond to someone who's really set in their own ideas and basically their ideas allow them to view you in a stereotypical way? How would you respond to that?
Thank you very much for the question, Catherine. I think first it's very important that our youth grows in flexibility of thought. That means that we are allowed to think in a broadened perspective to understand where stereotypes come from and to understand why they're actually there. I think speaking to that specific person that does view the stereotypes or is in the situation or the present geographical location where the stereotypes are present, I think we need to remember that stereotypes are socially constructed by society. That means that they are deemed and they are born from society. We need to challenge those stereotypes as the youth, and we need to challenge those stereotypes as South Africans in order to realize the diverse cultures that we face. Thank you, Catherine.
Thank you so much, Jabu. Shaka?
Yeah, thanks, Tumi. Samantha, I want to ask the same question about stereotypes, but I mean, maybe I want to go a little bit deeper. I mean, we've seen you over the past 12 weeks. You know, and you've, for me, and I think many viewers, you've stopped being a white person. You could be a black person that's just very, very, very light. But the question I really wanted to find out is, coming onto the show, do you think that being a white lady that is essentially also a Xhosa lady, do you think that would give you the edge?
I think that, thank you for the question, by the way. I think that one, there is grounds for that question. So I can accept it with great maturity as a leader, rightly so should. But to answer it, I think that for me, irrespective of this show, I've been consistent in terms of the person that I am with those I interact from a young age. And no one can take that away from me, not even this show. So I think that for me, it's been about me knowing that already from the beginning, there's a stereotype attached to me, such as your question, Shaka. But I've managed to deal with it, embrace it, because it has been a challenge my whole life. And I've come to a place where I totally accept myself, and thus I'm able to accept others exactly for who they are.
So are you the model? Are you the model for what white South Africa should aspire to be?
I believe I am. I don't believe I'm perfect. There's no perfect person, but I believe, yes, I am that person.
Thank you so much, Samantha. Tendo?
Thank you, Brother Octavia. You must have listened very attentively to Babu Hlongwane.
Yes, I did.
He spoke about the negatives and the positives of tribalism, depending on how you construct whatever you say.
Yes, sir.
My question is, what is your understanding of this tribalism we're talking about?
I believe that tribalism, yeah, it's a tag that's given to a collective of cultures that we, as I would say, I don't want to be blunt, but as black people, whatever culture that you're from, that is what tribalism is. It's more than a title. When he explained it, it's a living, it's a lifestyle. It's a cultural choice and a heritage that we need to preserve, almost like an origin of black people. That's what tribalism is. And it's something that he says that we should all, as the youth and as the people that are around, should fight to preserve, because it's what makes us unique and our footprint in the world. So yeah, basically that's what it is. It's our own unique identity as Africans.
Thank you so much, judges. Thank you, contestants, for those answers. All right. Now we're moving on and we go straight into our debate. Our topic for this week is it possible to implement some of the constitutional ideas that are applauded internationally against the backdrop of tribalism? Before we start the debate, here are the rules of our debates. Every leader
leader has a set of instructions and disciplines to live by. These are the rules for the one-day leader debates. You have 30 seconds to state your vision statement, 60 seconds for the opponent to challenge, and 30 seconds to conclude your debate.
Those are the rules. And our very first debate is between Leader 5, Samantha, and Leader 4, Jabu. We'll start this one with Leader 4, Jabu. Your 30 seconds to present us with your vision statement begin now.
Thank you very much. Tribalism is a challenge in South Africa, and it needs to be tackled with a great effort of national and social cohesion, national building and national unity, in the words of Thabo Mbeki. We need to create platforms for South Africans not only to embrace their own cultures, but to embrace their cultures across South Africa. And given an example of this, the Indondi Miss Culture Pageant, which is a platform for cultures sponsored by the Department of Arts and Culture for ladies to come forth and embrace not their cultures, but other cultures in South Africa. These are the platforms that I'm talking about.
Thank you so much, Leader 4. Leader 5, they're talking about ladies there. Your 60 seconds to challenge begin now.
Thank you so much, Leader 4. What I wanted to ask is two things. One, how do we do this? How do we prevent this not just being the same old talk that we have? I can even say stereotypically of white people to say, no, I must embrace this kind of person instead of actively going to do it.
Perfect.
And two, how do we do this given the economic inequalities of the vast majority of South Africans?
Thank you very much for that question, Sam. First of all, she spoke of how. I'm talking about innovation and realizing the different contexts that we can do it. I spoke about the Indondi Miss Culture Challenge, which is a different platform which brings ladies together in a society to embrace another culture in South Africa to be regarded as beautiful, embracing our cultures. Another platform that we can look at as a PhD mathematician from UNISA stated that when a group of children or a group of learners were taught maths in Zulu, in their cultural languages, they actually deemed greater results, whereas they were taught it in English, and that's subtracted.
All right, Leader 4, you might as well conclude your vision statement in 30 seconds.
I'll carry that on. So what I'm talking about, this is another platform that we can engage in, getting people to teach them in their cultural heritages in extra lessons, to embrace their knowledge in the subject, and to actually create platforms to bring South Africans together to embrace our cultures and not only your own. What I'm saying here is that we're also dealing with the constitutional ideas, which I'm talking about freedom of expression. I'm talking about freedom of choice, and I'm talking about the Ubuntu characteristics that make us up as South Africans. Embracing other people's cultures to talk about social cohesion and national cohesion around South Africa.
Thank you so much, Jabu. Okay. All right, now Leader 5, Samantha, your 30 seconds to give us your vision statement begins now.
There is nothing wrong with celebrating cultural pride, absolutely nothing wrong with it, but the abuse of identity to define access to political power or opportunities for the vast majority of South Africans is the problem. We need to build a sense of common national identity amongst the broad community of South Africa. Long-term wise, we need to address the socio-economic inequalities of the majority of people. Short-term wise, we need to look at schools and communities that foster constitutional values in an extended
Thank you so much, Leader
curriculum.
5, Leader 4, Himo Chopin now in 60 seconds.
Thank you very much. I'm speaking about two things. What I'm saying here is that, Sam, you mentioned that we need to speak about schools and their communities. We need to realize that the people that we asked there about what they deem stereotypes came from were not in school. We were talking about taxi drivers. We were talking about members of the community. They are not involved in that constitutional situation. The next question that I have for you is that you said a common nationality among South Africans. And we must realize that how can we tell these different people that hold these stereotypes?
I think I've grasped it. Thank you so much, Jabulani. I mentioned schools because from an early childhood development stage, we need to foster constitutional values amongst our children. In other words, the Constitution, which embraces unity and diversity, Ubuntu, etc., the human race, that idea which goes against stereotypes, needs to be fostered amongst young children who know otherwise. Then I mentioned communities. Are taxi drivers not members of the community? The community needs leadership.
Wrap up in 30 seconds, Leader 5.
Thank you so much. Again, I speak to schools. In terms of education, I speak to communities. Taxi drivers, hello, you are members of communities. What I'm saying is that we need leadership in those communities that engage and don't promote the disengagement of such members of communities, but rather speak about critical consciousness, knowing who you are, critical thinking, and promote this value of being your own liberator mentality-wise, in accordance with our Constitution and such values.
Thank you so much, Leader 5. Samantha, round of applause to our very first debate. All right, our judges are still busy deliberating, and I will remind you that if you want either Leader 4, Jabu, or Leader 5, Samantha, to be in the top 2 of One Day Leader Season 3, you need to make sure that you vote for them. SMS Leader 4 or Leader 5 to 34020 and vote for your favorite leader. All right, judges,
okay,
are you ready?
Both of you, incredible arguments. Jabu, we loved the idea of different platforms. Samantha, I think you trumped Jabu because you're speaking about a common identity, something that you as a Zulu should identify. That's what Ushaka did. Common identity wins it for Samantha!
Samantha takes it! Congratulations, Samantha, and thank you so much for that very thought-provoking debate. Now we go for an ad break. When we come back, Octavia chooses his opponent and gives us his vision statement. Stay tuned. Welcome back to One Day Leader, and this week's topic is tribalism and stereotypes within South Africa. Now let's have a further look at some of your comments on Twitter. I have a few here. Gaeno Disepo, quite, opinionated. He actually tweeted us the most this afternoon, and he says that we need leaders that promote engagement. It starts by acknowledging internal racism and socially constructed stigma. Social equity is key. We have another one here that says, I find it very fascinating. How can we claim tribalism to be a unique cultural lifestyle of Black people? SMH, that's the hashtag right there. And one says that I don't need to fit in because our struggle is not the same. Powerful words there from the One Day Leader insert. I actually quite agree with you. Very powerful. And we have one here from Nomvuyo Mboyi who is still shocked by those comments about Xhosa people. Yes. All right there. And then Charlene says, LMAO, this dude on the insert who says Xhosa girl just visited him and left with his kettle. It's rough. It's rough in Jaws. We live with your kettle. All right. Let me just get one here. One from at PLK_snub_Drillo says, guys, Babukiti, a reason much better than our MPs here and bots. Truth must be said. I think he's from Botswana, so basically comparing our challenges in South Africa in their country. Hi, Botswana. Thank you so much for tuning in. Mzansi, we appreciate all your comments. Thank you so much for sending them through. But now, though, we go back to our debate. And our debate topic for this week is it possible to implement some of the constitutional ideas that are applauded internationally against the backdrop of tribalism? And now we head over to Octavia, to give us, of course, his opponent. Who is it, sir?
I'm going to choose Sam.
Alrighty, going with Sam. Now, with that said, you're going to give us your vision statement in 30 seconds. Begin now.
I say it is possible to implement constitution on the backdrop of tribalism because it's unacceptable that you cannot walk into a clothing store and buy traditional clothing, or the fact that 82.3% of the youth know more about pop culture than their own roots. The solution is therefore to make tradition cool. We as people need to communicate and cultivate our own cultural pride. And we need to do this in partnership with organizations like Lead SA. We should make every last Friday of each month a cultural Friday, similar to Bafana Friday, but in celebration of who we are and where we come from.
Thank you so much, Leader 6. Of course, you may chirp in now, Sam. In 60 seconds, begin now.
Thank you, Octavia, Leader 6. I've got two questions. One, you're addressing the issue of celebrating heritage, which is fantastic. I completely agree with you. But you aren't addressing the issue of stereotypes attached to particular groups of people and how we go against those, how we drive your solution against those specifically. When, number two, which was a question I had asked you last week, which I'm still waiting for an answer to, in terms of who owns the media, because the media manipulates people for its particular agenda.
We need to make tradition cool a bit, because when things are cool, they trend and everybody joins in. Cultural Friday happens with the intention of cultivating a cultural pride as South Africans, but communicating and expressing diversity to kill stereotypes. On Cultural Fridays, all children at schools and employees will be encouraged to wear their cultural garments or that of their peers in the spirit of Ubuntu. We can use radio, which is a part of the market that has a 90% penetration and broadcast in all 11 languages, to share personal cultural stories about ceremonies.
Might as well wrap up in 30 seconds. Begin now.
Okay, that shares and historical stories about traditional icons like Shaka Zulu or Dingazwai. We can use social media, which has the reach of 85% of the youth, which can discuss and question traditional practices and their relevance in our country. So, In short, they say that the darker the fruit, the sweeter the juice. I say the darker the flesh, the deeper the roots. To ask me about my roots, I'm proud about it, I'll tell you. Let's communicate. Thank you.
All righty. Thank you, Octavia. All right, Sam, this one's for you. 30 seconds, begin now. Give us your vision statement.
Thank you so much, Siswam. One, we need to build a sense of common national identity. This involves two things. It involves, one, you celebrating your unique identity, your heritage, where you come from, but it also means you fighting against stereotypes placed on people different to you. That's part of creating, or part of the problem that needs to be solved for creating this identity. I'm saying let's go to communities and schools. Let's start with education. Let's look at critical consciousness and thinking.
Thank you, Leader 5, Leader 6. Now you may challenge in 60 seconds. Begin now.
You were talking about challenging stereotypes, but I believe that stereotypes are like weeds. Once you pull one out, a new one comes in. So by targeting education, what you're saying is let's start at grassroots, but it's not going to help us in terms of preserving our culture. If our elders have all the... Wait, hold on.
I think I've captured your point.
No, but I've got two.
Okay, go for it.
So what happens is, if our elders have all the knowledge and they can't be engaging in schools, how are we going to get them to enroot all of that knowledge?
Thank you so much, Octavia. Again, I don't know how this is not being captured by the leader. I've spoken to schools in terms of children, youth, young people who do, and I've spoken to schools, by the way, in terms of the mass majority, not university or those who get a privileged few get the opportunity to learn about diversity only at that level. I'm talking about early, young childhood development. I'm talking about communities, which means the vast majority of the population. And I'm talking about how we need to be our own liberators. We need to think critically and consciously.
But you can't liberate yourself if you don't know your culture. If I'm
all right,
5
Samantha,
and
now
don't
you
know...
might as well wrap up your vision statement.
Part of being engaged in a community means you have access to information, which you are saying is lacking, Octavia. That is what we're saying. In a community, you can engage with your leaders. You can engage with people who are different to you. It shouldn't be about an event where we have one national platform and we speak about it, and then the next day everything goes back to normal. It is a process. That means we have to look at people in their majority. People, yes, celebrating their heritage, but to also being responsible and active and engaging the fact that they are different to someone else.
A round of applause to debate too. Wow. Thank you so much, leaders. All right, judges, Tendo, may we please have the name of our winner?
Okay, I'm gonna take this one. Yes. And excuse me. Okay. So I think that both of you had such important points. Sam's talking about a bottom-up approach when we look at the grassroots level. Octavia, you spoke about the top-down approach. Both are critically important when we discuss this kind of issue. And one is not superior to the other. They're both very important ways that we need to address this. So we can't look at the approach. So I've had to look at, as a panel, we've had to actually look at presentation and delivery. And Octavia, you're the one that captured me this time. So.
All righty, Octavia takes it.
That's not her.
Alrighty, just want to remind you again that if you would like to vote for Leader 5, you can SMS Leader 5 to 34020 or Leader 6, of course, to 34020, as well as Leader 4 to 34020. Don't forget that this is the top 3. We are looking for our top 2 for One Day Leader Season 3. And on that note, we take an ad break, and when we come back, we present a surprise to you and everyone here in studio. One of the many benefits of being part of this show. Don't you go anywhere. Welcome back to the last few minutes of One Day Leader, where we're discussing tribalism and stereotypes in South Africa. And as promised, well, today we're very excited to be launching a book by the candidates of the first and second season of One Day Leader. This book is one of the ways we aim to live beyond the very short 13 weeks that each season allows us. But to talk to us more about the book, we've invited back Anele Nzimande, who was a contestant on One Day Leader Season 2. The topic that she deals with is appropriate for this week, which is, of course, race and culture. Anele, welcome back to One Day Leader.
Thank you, Tumi.
Aren't you excited to be back in the studio?
It is daunting. So it never gets less scary. You always come here and you're like, wow. And
wow. Great to see you again. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Let's talk about your book. Tell me briefly what your chapter speaks about.
So I had to pick something. I had to write on something that was very important to me. So I picked race and culture. And I struggled a bit, what am I going to write about? It's so broad, there's so much to explore, so much to unpack. So it came to me when I was in Cape Town, at the airport, in the bus. So in Cape Town, you have to take the bus to the plane, and so it's that situation. Sitting in my seat, and there's an elderly white woman, and she's standing. So immediately I think, no, I have to give up my seat. It's African culture, you give your seat up. And I don't think it's just African culture, in fact, I just think it's a universal thing. But now I'm conflicted because I don't know how it's going to be interpreted. Is it going to be interpreted as a young person standing up for the elderly, or is it going to be interpreted as a black person getting up for a white person? So in my mind, I'm like, do I stand? Do I not stand? Are people going to think that, I, for lack of a better word, a house Negro? Or what do I do? What do you do in situations like this? So I knew exactly what I was going to start my chapter off with. The predicament in the bus, it became racial, although it should not have been. But in my mind, I was in quite a situation.
And I can imagine you're not the only young person dealing with this sort of indecisiveness. Can we just take a look at the book as well? If you could just hold it up for us so that everyone can just see how it looks. A round of applause. That's the book that we are talking about. But so far, very briefly, Anele, with what the leaders have argued this afternoon, do you think young people are playing an active role in encouraging one another to preserve our heritage?
So I don't know about preservation. I don't think heritage is something, so I don't necessarily think it's something that needs to be preserved because it's constantly evolving. You look at Samantha, for example, who is this amazing model, for where I think I preempted this with my chapter because I was speaking about how when I came to Johannesburg, I was only fluent in isiZulu, isiXhosa, and English. So, for me, I would still get a lot of flack for not knowing how to speak Sotho, for not knowing how to speak Sepedi. So I think in terms of moving forward and the preservation of culture, it needs to happen not only with a specific racial group, but everyone. We all need to come to the party, we all need to come to the fore, and we all need to make the effort.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Anele. A round of applause to Anele Nzimande. Thank you, Anele, and I can't wait to get my hands on the book. Very, very much well deserved. Thank you so much to all the Wonder Leader past leaders for having that book. Now let's take a look at our final scoreboard for this week. And as you can see in our series scoreboard, Jabu and Octavia now have a tie, running at 12 points each, with Samantha coming behind with 11 points. All right. Very important now for you at home to play your part and ensure that you vote for your favorite leader. We're in a very sensitive stage where we are looking for our top 2 leaders for our One Day Leader Season 3. And right now, though, I'm going to come to our judges. Just very briefly, very, very briefly, Tendo, who impressed you the most?
Brother Octavia, for deepening the research.
It's not a tribalist thing, this.
No. For deepening the research, going beyond just the classroom, using the elders, iconic figures, common identity. She did well, but I thought she could have expanded more.
Thank you so much, Tendi. We're out of time. Thank you, leaders. Thank you, audience. Thank you at home. I'm Tumelo Mothotoane. I'll see you next week. Goodbye.